A few people have asked why I haven't followed up my last video, or why it's taking so long for me to do a next video. And the main reason is because I'm not on YouTube to try to build my channel or to get as many followers as possible, or to make money or anything like that. I'm just on YouTube to drop a few information, drop some information to basically give my perspective of things, of what I see, of what I find, what I've unraveled, because this whole thing is tricky. It's very tricky. So I have to spend a lot of time studying. It's hard to study when you're talking. And when I say studying, I don't necessarily mean reading books or watching videos. Information comes in a lot of different ways, and you have to spend time studying the information that you received, whether it's through your five senses, sixth sense, through dreams. There's so much there's so much information to study and to piece together. So I have to spend a lot of time doing that, because there is a bigger picture, much bigger than coming on YouTube and dropping videos. But to pick up from my last video, where basically I was trying to express that the concept of the devil is not this external being which lives in hell, that has these millions of demons, that is out to kill, steal and destroy, and is there tempting you and trying to drag you to hell. That is not what it is. The concept of the devil is something that's a part of the human race. The ability to choose between right and wrong. That alone is dangerous. The reason why I say that is because there is my idea, there's your idea, and then there's their idea. There's my plan, your plan, their plan, and their plan. And there's a difference between our ideas or our concept and their concept and their plan, what it actually is. If you understand what I'm trying to say, I think most people will. So what I'm trying to say is this. When you're trying to figure out an equation, there's your answer, there's their answer, there's his answer, her answer, and then there's the answer. The answer cannot be shaken either way. It's the answer. The human race don't live in that concept where they live in the answer, because of the fact that they use a very low percentage of their brains. So really the human race is not is not an intelligent species if you're using such a low percentage capacity of your cognitive. I'm trying to say, if you're using a very low amount of your brain and you have the ability to choose between right and wrong, what kind of chaos do you think that will cause? I'm going to say it again. If you as a species have 100% capacity to think, 100% capacity of your abilities, and you're only using a very, very small amount, but yet you still have the ability to choose between right and wrong, that's going to cause problems. Because the fact that you have to choose means you're unsure in the first place. And I'm getting somewhere. The fact that you have to choose between right and wrong means that there's trouble. Why is it that there is a choice? So why do you have to choose? For example, if there's a girl that's pregnant and I hear that, oh, she had to calculate the time when she thinks she got pregnant because there was a choice between blah blah and blah. Why is there a choice? When if there's only one person that she's sleeping with, that choice wouldn't be there. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? There would be no choice if there's only one. If there's only one answer, there will be no choice. But because something happened, now you have to calculate to choose between. No? Don't understand? Okay, for me, if somebody asks me something, because I have this, what other people will call a disorder to tell the truth will just automatically come out my mouth. It's just an automatic thing. And I always say to people when they say to me, can I ask you something? I always say to them, as long as you're not going to get upset at whatever I believe the truth, because that's exactly what's going to come out of my mouth. For me, I don't have the ability to choose to lie, because the truth will just come out my mouth. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? When a question's asked, if you have to choose between, it's because you're unsure, something's wrong. But if somebody asks you a question and you're like me, you don't have the ability to lie, the truth will just come out of your mouth. There is no choice, because there's only one, the truth. Okay, let's go back to the Garden of Eden. So Adam and Eve were blissfully going about their whole experience in the garden, enjoying themselves. At no point did they realize they were naked. And I'm only using the story of the Garden of Eden because it's a story, and there's a reason why stories are told. Remember I said that. There's a reason why stories are told. So they're going about the garden. They were not aware of the fact that they were naked, because afterwards it said, after they ate the fruit, it said they were now aware that they were naked and they were now ashamed. So when they ate the fruit, it says in the story that they now became aware of good and evil. Okay, so the question is this: do you think they were aware of good before they ate the fruit? Do you think they were aware of good? Just good. Do you think they were aware of good? Do you think they were aware of moral standings? They were aware of righteousness? Do you think they were aware of telling the truth before they ate the fruit? I think they were. There was nothing, there was no chaos. Like I said, they were blissfully enjoying their experience in the garden. They didn't have a choice before they ate the fruit. There was no choice between good and evil before they ate the fruit. They only knew good, so they did good. Then they ate the fruit. Then it said they were now aware of good and evil. So what changed? They were now aware of evil when they ate the fruit. But why were they now aware of evil if they were aware of good before? Now all of a sudden they're now aware of evil. Now they're ashamed that they are naked. Why would they be ashamed that they are naked? They weren't ashamed before they ate the fruit. Now they're ashamed. So can you see they lost something? They didn't gain anything by eating the fruit. They lost something. Because when they lost something, all of a sudden they started to experience feelings like shame that they were naked, and untrust. He said when God walked through the garden and called them, they stood, they hid because they were ashamed, so they didn't trust. All of a sudden, can you see they lost something? They didn't gain anything. There is nothing to gain by having a knowledge of evil. There is nothing to gain by having a knowledge of evil. See, what I believe happened, and like I said, these are all my theories, and the majority of my theories, I don't hear other people say them. The majority of times, I say things and I hear one or two people say them years later. Like, for example, it was a funny story, but I don't really want to get into it. But I was explaining to somebody that I found that Jesus himself had, in the actual story, had actually predicted that they would build this whole church under his name and deceive a lot of people. And he actually said it. And it's funny that it's actually in there. It's actually in the Bible saying it. And I quoted to him, and I said to him that Jesus actually said when somebody came to him and said, "Give me a sign of the times when it's coming to an end," and Jesus said, when many come in my name and say that I am Christ and deceive many, that's a sign. So when many people come in my name, Jesus, he's talking about himself, when many people come in my name, Jesus, and say that I am the Christ and deceive many, many, many people, that's your sign that things are coming to an end. And it's funny that's happened, because how many religions are based on Jesus being the Christ? How many institutions are based on Jesus being the Christ? And how many people, how many people are actually being deceived from them saying that Jesus was the Christ? And he actually predicted it. I think that's in Matthew. And it's funny that it's happened, but yet they try to spin that verse around like that's actually not what he's saying. Like, come on. But anyway, when I explained that to one of my friends, he was kind of shocked. And then later on, I heard somebody else say it a long time afterwards. But many of the things that I say, it comes from my mouth. It comes from what I've unraveled. It doesn't come from what people say, or what I read in books, or what I heard in a conference, whatever. But yeah, so what I believe they lost is they lost that 100% cognitive order, the ability to use 100% of their ability. I think they lost that the moment they ate that fruit. And when you lose that, for example, you get to a stage, you turn into a human, which is what I think happened to them. Understand what I'm saying? I know they were human, but now this human don't have the ability to use 100% of their brain. Now they have a choice between good and evil. And when there's a choice, that's not a good thing. You see what I'm trying to say? It's not a good thing. If you have any species who have 100% capacity would not have a choice. They would just do the thing. The right thing. You know, that thing, the one thing, the one answer, they just do that automatically because everything's just... That's what I'm doing. So for example, when it comes to stupid things like lying, anybody who has 100% cognitive order is just going to just say the truth, because it's only people who are afraid of somebody else's reaction to the truth who won't say the truth. See, every time there's this choice between good and evil, the evil is always based on some kind of fear. So it's always based on a fear of somebody else's reaction, or a fear of, am I going to lose something, or, you know, how am I going to look, or it's always based on that evil, that choice of good and evil. It's always based on that. Like, you have a choice to get an uppance, to get some money, to get a big something, and that something that it takes to get that means you have to do something that's not right. The fact that you are spending time analyzing whether how wrong is it. Oh, it's not right in our butts. He do it to me. I think he do it to me though. I think he do it to me. So yeah, maybe, yeah, man. But I'm gonna get like 10 bags, like 20 bags. Like, you know, I can do with that money. All of a sudden, this choice between, and then you're battling back to your head, but it's wrong though, innit? It's wrong. There's always this voice. See, there's many different voices. I personally believe that each of your chakras has its own mind, and each chakra thinks, and your brain is just where all of those thoughts and the sounds of those thoughts gets processed. It gets processed in your mind, which is why I think which is why I believe people say, oh, he's talking from your stomach, or talk from your chest, or he's thinking with his, you know, or like, you know what I'm trying to say? Because I believe all of these chakras have mind, or you're thinking with your heart, because they all have minds. So your heart might say something, but your belly might say something different, and then your genitals might say something completely different, and then all those different thoughts are getting processed in your mind. And then you're thinking, oh my days, like I'm hearing so many different thoughts and decisions and ideas and don't know what to choose. See, there's this battle between right and wrong, and then the right, you hear something good and you hear something bad, and it's just this big ball of confusion. But then in all of that ball of confusion, there is the right answer. There is the rightful thought. It might be really, really quiet. The sound might be really, really quiet. Or it might come and hit for a very short space of time. But there is always the right answer. There is always the idea. Not my idea or my decision. There's always the right decision. Sometimes it's hard to hear what that right decision is, because of the fact that we're not using 100% of our brains. So as soon as a species lost the ability, so low, as soon as a species lost the ability to use 100% capacity of their brains, it starts to depreciate the correct decisions that they make. And I believe over time, over centuries, the capacity and the amount that we actually use in has become lower and lower and lower as a mass. And it's very, very few that probably, if any, that have more than the mass. It's gotten lower and lower and lower, and the more it's gotten lower and lower and lower, is the more the devil has become stronger and stronger and stronger. Because the concept of the devil is, as soon as a species lost the ability to use 100% of their cognitive disorder, and now they don't have the ability, now they're choosing, you know what I'm trying to say, when you start at 100 and you get to 95, you're still really, really clever. You still have the ability to make the right choices, but you're going to have a weakness. There's going to be something that you don't automatically react right to. You know what I'm trying to say? So in the concept of in the story, remember I said story is always told for a reason. In the story of Samson, he only had one weakness: his hair. That was his only weakness, physically. But he also had other weaknesses. He had weaknesses which Delilah was able to take advantage of and get him to expose himself, because he didn't have many weaknesses. And as we go down and down and down, and you hit 80% and 50%, now all of a sudden the automatic things that you would be doing as an intelligent species, now you're weighing up whether or not, should I do this or should I do that? Because not only are you thinking about your decline as a species, you're thinking about the overall decline as a species. So you're thinking about, oh yeah, what are they going to do? What are the other person going to do? So the right thing all of a sudden becomes maybe not even the right thing to do in certain circumstances, when you have a world filled with unintelligent people. And that's one of the major problems in this world, that there are actually people who think they are actually intelligent. Straight up. There are actually people on this planet who actually believe they are intelligent, even though they are using such a very, 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 very small percentage of who they actually are. We as a species have got to recognize that we're not intelligent. And because there's so many unintelligent people crowded together, it's gonna cause chaos, which is what we're seeing right now all over the world. Chaos, the ability to not make the right decisions. When you have 100% ability, why would you need to choose? Why is there a choice? Why do I need to think? When I'm really, really intelligent, 100% intelligent, and somebody gives me an equation, I don't need to think. The answer would just come out. There's no thinking. The thinking process, if any, is so short. There is anything else. There is nothing else. I don't have to think about my emotional disposition, how it's going to affect me. This is the right thing to do. So this is where the concept of the devil comes from. An unintelligent race, which is what we are. An unintelligent race who have the ability to choose between right and wrong. When we choose to do wrong, that's where the concept of the devil comes in. See, the concept of the devil came in the story, like I said, in the Garden of Eden. Because when they ate the fruit, they didn't gain nothing. They lost something. They lost that 100% ability. So now that there's a choice, when I choose bad and I choose wrong, that's where the devil comes from. Because I was bad. I was bad, so I got punished. I made the wrong decision. So I'm going to get punished. And they make it sound like they make it sound like, oh, there's the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other shoulder, and the devil's, what's he doing? He's talking in your ear. You hear him talking. And then there's the angel. You hear it talking. Well, the concept of that is just the good, right decision is trying to talk. And then your intelligent self, you, not no devil from hell somewhere, you and your intelligent self, your unintelligent self, is there talking in the other ear about how much it's going to affect you to make the right decision, and how much you're going to gain from making the wrong decision, and how no one's going to find out, and how much it's not that really important. And yeah, he'd probably do it to me, and then I'm going to gain so much, and this is what I'm going to do. That's you talking. That's your unintelligent self talking. That's not the devil. That's you talking to yourself. And then you make that choice. And then you blame it not on yourself. You blame it on some entity somewhere. And then most of you get on your knees and pray to somebody in the sky for forgiveness, and then you feel better. See, the human race, their capacity to use their brains has gotten so low and so low to a point now, as a mass, as a mass consciousness, like on a whole, the majority, listen, like you would think that when the information age came out that it would have helped, but it actually didn't, because it's actually brought the mental consciousness even lower. And it's so low right now that as a whole and a mass, as a human race, we're as low as mental illness. That's where we are right now. We are, on a whole, we're mentally ill. There is a mental disorder. That's how much the capacity has gone down so low. When you have somebody who accepts certain things to be real that really isn't real, and obviously isn't real, it's like, okay, for example, you have a 3-year-old who believes in Santa Claus. Okay. I really believes in Santa Claus. You know, she's 3 years old. Really believes in Santa Claus. When you spend time with her, you know she believes in Santa Claus. If you speak to a 53-year-old or a 43-year-old or a 33-year-old, a 23-year-old, and maybe even a 13-year-old, but let's stick up in the higher ages of threes. Yeah, if you speak to somebody in that age group and they actually believe in Santa Claus, what would you think about them? If they're there and, you know, from you spending time with them and the way that they're talking, they actually believe in Santa Claus and they're 53 years old, wouldn't you believe that there's something wrong with them? Because they believe something really silly. So you're thinking, wow, if you believe that, you must make some really crazy decisions. Or you must have some other really crazy thoughts. The way you live your life must be really weird. If that's actually how you really believe. If that's what you really believe. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, if you know somebody that literally walks around, okay, if you have a 3-year-old who has a invisible best friend, like, that's cool. You know, they're entertaining themselves with their invisible best friend. But if you have a 53-year-old or 43-year-old, 23-year-old, or even a 13-year-old who has an invisible best friend, you ain't gonna think there's something wrong with them? No? You're gonna think that person's normal? You know, they feed in their invisible best friend, shit like that. You're not gonna think asking their best friend what they're wearing so that they can wear the same thing and we can match. You're not gonna think there's something wrong with that person? No? Okay. Well, that's kind of like the same thing what I think when I think about people who believe that there's a man in the sky that's going to save them. That there is a God in the sky that's going to save them. And all they have to do is say a prayer and they're going to get let into these massive golden gates in the sky somewhere. And then this amazing God in the sky sent his only begotten Son to come and be tortured and killed and then come back for you. Like, I think the same thing about people who believe that's actually true. You have a mental disorder. So yeah, Christians, I believe, have a mental disorder. When you believe something as crazy as that, you have a mental disorder. Now, if you came to that concept by yourself, that there's this guy in the sky, and all I got to do is repent and say sorry when I do bad, and I'll get there. If you came up with that concept by yourself, I never heard that before, I would say, you know what? If that's how you choose to live, considering you have a very low, like all of us have a low mental capacity, and we have a very low, we don't have the ability to use as much as our brains as we should do, and the amount that we have to use is very low. If that's the way you kind of want to live your life, so what you're saying is, when I make mistakes, that's kind of how I get myself out of mistakes. But I know it's not true, but that's kind of like, I'll be like, okay, do your thing, dog. But when you hear somebody came and told you that, and you actually believe that, you have a mental disorder. If you believe something as crazy as that, you have a mental disorder. Nowadays, they are forcing people to accept other people who have mental disorders as normal. Not just nowadays, but when you tell me I have to accept a man dressing as a woman, or a man who thinks he is a woman, I have to treat him as a normal human being and accept him as a normal human being. You're trying to lower my mental capacity. You're turning me insane, because you're forcing me to believe something that I know isn't true. Because I know it is not normal. It's not normal for a man to dress like a woman. So why would I force myself to treat him as normal? Shouldn't it be the attention on him and deal with his mental disorder? Why is all the effort spent on the person who sees it as not normal? Why is all the attention spent on us to accept it as normal, when the attention should be on the people who are acting abnormal and who have a mental disorder? Help them. But you're not helping them, and this is the problem. They are not helping the people with the mental disorder, and then they're forcing people to accept these people who have mental disorders, forcing us to accept them as normal. So what do you think is going to happen even further to the whole mental capacity and the ability to choose between right and wrong going forward? It's going to get lower and lower and lower and lower and lower. The more you believe things to be normal when it's not, you're eating food that is not real, but you're forcing your brain to believe it's real. And soon what they're going to do is, when they finally have all the seeds in the world and nobody can actually go and plant anything no more, because everything they give you now, there's no seeds in it. So you won't have the ability to take and replant, because this is how the world works. The way the plants work and the way seeds work is, when you eat a fruit, there's a seed to plant back so you can replant a whole tree. Not just to get that one apple you got back, but to get hundreds of apples and millions of apples possibly, and different whatever fruits there are. But now that there's no more fruits, now that there's no more real fruits anymore, there's nothing to replant. So all the seeds are disappearing, and then they go in to start making fake food. Everything's going to be made in a lab. So think about it. If you have the ability to make food in the lab, are you going to feed the world? Are you going to feed the world with it? With the ability to make foods in the lab, are you going to go and feed everybody that's hungry? Because if you're telling me you can make food in labs, then why are there hungry people? Because at the moment, you've taken the ability of people to plant their own foods, so people are starving. So when all the seeds are taken away and all the foods are being made in labs, we have to come to the lab to buy the food. So our ability to survive on the very mere basic thing called food, the ability to survive on food is going to be based on my relationship with a company in a lab. Can you see where this world is going? And it's a shame that there isn't enough people who can see what's happening to stop it, because one day we will all be eating fake food. And this fake food is going to come from a lab who can charge us whatever they want. And if we don't want to buy it from them, there's nowhere else to go eat, because all the seeds have been taken away. You can't go and buy none of this fake food and replant it, because it's fake. You can't take nothing and grow nothing. You can't grow nothing anyway, because the land don't belong to you. But can you see what's going to happen when foods are all coming from a lab? Now all of a sudden, the ability to eat depends on how much money you have around the world. Where I come from, there are trees everywhere with fruits everywhere. It's a shame. It is a shame. But the devil is winning. The devil is winning because everybody's confused. Because everybody's lost. Everybody's afraid. Everybody's scared. Like, fear is a very powerful thing. It can make you do some amazing things. Amazingly good and amazingly bad things. Fear. See, when you have a